New this weekend, families of Boeing crash victims have now met with the Justice Department demanding that the world's largest aerospace company be held accountable for their deaths. This comes just after Boeing provided the FAA with a new plan for safety improvements following multiple incidents involving Boeing aircrafts just this year. Former Federal Aviation Administrator, Billy Nolen is with us this Saturday morning. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Hannah. Thanks for having me on this morning.
Of course. Now, we heard from some of the family members who met with Department of Justice officials. Let's take a listen, and I'll talk to you on the other side, sir.
I have to have some faith that the Department of Justice is going to do the right thing because their sole intent is to ensure that justice prevails. And that means providing all the evidence, putting it on the table, and prosecuting the individuals.
So what would your message be to these family members, sir?
Well, the law is not my area of expertise. I've met with some of the family members during my time as administrator, so I'm going to defer to the Department of Justice on that. But what I would say is that this week was a critical one for Boeing. They had an opportunity to present to the FAA administrator their plan, which they were required to do within 90 days. So that came this past week. I understand and I listened into that conversation that Boeing has a comprehensive plan, but the devil is in the details, and certainly it is in the execution. So it's how well they execute upon this improvement plan that will then convey not only to the flying public, but to the FAA that we are actually seeing a reset here.
So what kind of safety protocols would you be looking for them to implement?
Well, when you think about it, right, there's something called cultural drift. You've got a culture in place, but you start to see, to the extent that you see lapses, whether some of those lapses are among your suppliers, et cetera. So what is, part of it, what we call a good safety management system, which is really a systems of systems. When you think about quality, when you think about production control, when you think about employee training, and when you think about employee reporting, when all of those work well together, then what you have is a very robust culture that is one that is continually improving and continuing to learn. So this was a real opportunity, and it's a pivotal moment for Boeing to be able to regain that sense of confidence from both the public and from the regulator that things are different than they've been in the past.
So in light of these recent issues involving Boeing, like the door plug failure I mentioned on Flight 1282, the discovery of loose bolts on multiple 737 MAX jets, how did this once trusted plane manufacturer get to this point where people are checking to see if their upcoming flights are on Boeing aircrafts and could even cancel a flight as soon as they find out it is Boeing?
Well, when it goes without saying, when you see, let's say, multiple events that sometimes give the flying public pause. I get on Boeing. I have flown the majority of my flying career, 40 plus years, have all been on Boeing products, virtually my whole, professional career. So, but it is, you see that sometimes. So this is an opportunity. I think Dave Calhoun spoke to very well. Boeing has an opportunity to fully regain the public's trust and to fully regain the trust of the regulator, both here at home and abroad. And so as we watch the steps that they take place, that they have put in place to improve upon their culture, and then have the kind of metrics that you can look at. The FAA said they're going to be looking at this on a weekly, a monthly, and a quarterly basis. So this is what you can see it that in the metrics that are there, as to see, are we making demonstrable progress? And to the extent that we are, that's another way of demonstrating to the public that trust is key, it is sacrosanct, and it's paramount, and they're fully committed to it.
So, Billy, I have to ask, taking your experience into account, the inner workings of the airline industry, the FAA and Boeing extremely well. What would you say to people who now are afraid of flying?
Well, what I would say is I look across the arc of my own career, and I've seen a lot. I've seen the growth in safety management system that has proliferated across the industry. We are in one of the safest periods, and aviation, commercial aviation remains the safest form of travel, bar none, right? But that means that we never rest on our records. We never rest on our laurels. We're forever looking to say, how can we improve? What is the reporting telling us? This is something that what I'd like to call visible, present, felt leadership, right? It has to be visible, meaning leaders out and about. You're in the moment as you engage with employees, and most importantly, they have to feel that you really care. I believe that's the case, and so this is something we will not only look to the current leadership, but to the incoming CEO that say that you will continue on this path, and there's never a day that you don't wake up and say, how are we doing? And there's an opportunity for us to be better.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.